Hello, welcome to another Volteface Industry News Show with myself and Katia. Before we get into today's show, we have a very interesting opportunity announcement. So I'm going to pass straight over to Katia to give said announcement.
Yeah, hi everyone. So just before we get into the industry show and analysis, we are offering £10 to patients to fill out a survey on their patient experience. It only takes about 5 to 15 minutes. So if you're interested, email info@voltfast.me. People that are signed up to our Patients First database will have received an email about it already. But if you are not subscribed to the database and you are a patient that is current and legally prescribed and based in the UK, then please get in touch and I'll send across the survey.
There we go. Good stuff. So in today's show, we're going to be talking about the recent MedBud Wiki stats, which we now have a collaboration with. We're releasing those stats every month. So we're going to give a bit more of a discussion and insights into that data, which we're very happy about. It's a really cool collaboration and think that those stats are really interesting, whether you work in the industry or just interested in it. So we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about Labour's very, very, very strong lead in the polls and what that could mean for medical cannabis in the UK. What does a strong majority Labour government look like for people that work in the industry and patients that use the medical cannabis industry? And we're going to be talking about a really good article in Byline Times by our good friend Sarah Sinclair. Two friends there. We love Byline. We know Hardeep very well. Ex-member of staff and friend of mine from Byline. And Sarah. So, yeah, we'll be talking about that excellent piece that was in Byline Times. But first, MedBud Wiki. Katia, let's maybe start at the top and work our way down. What's some of the main things that jumped out for you when we were going through the stats and writing that piece yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that's just interesting, aside from all the kind of specific data, is just that that MedBud's traffic is increasing month after month, which just shows that there's increasing interest in the market, which is likely leading to increases in patient numbers, you would think, because MedBud is quite a comprehensive database of information. So if people are seeking out that information, they're probably getting prescribed or thinking about a prescription. And yeah, this data is obviously super valuable because the number of patients in the UK is like the industry's best kept secret, and no one's actually willing to disclose that. So this data is really valuable because it gives probably the biggest insight into that.
It's the industry's best guess as well. Like it went up again recently, didn't it? People were saying it's up over like 30,000.
Yeah,
I don't know what research has been done to suggest that, but I think there is a general feeling that numbers are increasing. But I mean, they're always going to.
it would. Yeah,
You wouldn't
it
expect
would
them to
be
go down.
it would be quite
You're
bad
going to
if
go
they
one
weren't
way.
increasing or were decreasing. But
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, I feel like there is definitely a need for some proper polling to be done on it. I know there's like polling around self-medication and stuff, um, but yeah, jumping straight into the clinics, I guess. One thing that's really interesting is just the massive dominance of a few clinics taking up like 2/3 of the market. And yeah, when you look at the top viewed clinics, that's only a fraction of the number of clinics that are actually existing across the UK and the Isles. I think there's 46 at the moment. So yeah, you're definitely in that pie chart. You're not seeing representation from those 46 clinics. So I think it just demonstrates how competitive the market is. And yeah, if you are thinking of entering the space, you need to be offering something wildly different, or just not bank on medical cannabis being your sole source of income. So it's a really great opportunity for just general private healthcare clinics that look into unlicensed medicines to perhaps offer medical cannabis prescribing just in their suite of services, which I
Yeah, I
suppose a
agree.
lot of clinics probably are doing, those ones that aren't on this pie chart.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you once went to that space as well, you're going to have to immediately compete with the aggressive marketing spend and PR spend of those clinics that are dominating. And we know that we mentioned Medica in the piece for a while now, been doing like really strong mainstream PR campaigning, did like a 420 advert, all of which comes at, this stuff is not cheap. Well, we know from working
For
in the space, but like it's not cheap. They're not cheap outgoings. And Curaleaf have, huge amounts of capital and money, so much so that they can do Sky adverts, like Sky News adverts. So I think people that are wanting to jump into the space need to really carefully look at that pie chart and go, right, so there's 30,000 patients allegedly,
Maybe
you know,
more, maybe less. Who knows?
yeah, who knows? But like, you know, it's probably around that
Sure.
number. And then think, right, well, that pie chart there gives an idea of where those patients sit. So there's not a lot. After you take that 67% and allocate it to the top 5, there's not really a lot to then go
And play
around
with.
the other, whatever it is, 30 odd,
Yeah.
30, 36, whatever it would be. Like, that's really not a lot of patients. So you've got to be in this for the long game. And if you're not in it for the long game, all the best.
Yeah, or you just have to,
like,
yeah, you have to match those marketing strategies. I mean, you could definitely
yeah,
map out, you know, what these clinics have done well, what they haven't done well, and learn from that. And I think that's why we are seeing, you know, MedMedica is a fairly recent player. They've been around in the industry for about 2 years, I want to say. And they're obviously, you know, they're competing with like Cureleaf now, and Cureleaf has been around since the very beginning. So yeah, there's definitely things that you can learn and strategies and techniques to allow you to get that attention and those patient numbers. But I guess another point I'll make is with the clinic pie chart is these proportions of the most viewed clinics each month are directly attributable to interventions that those clinics have done. So Life being in third place, that is very much likely due to the fact that they've launched the subscription program. There's been some, you know, comms that that has been put out around that. So that's, you know, very likely linked to that. And, you know, and Cureleaf and MedMedica being, you know, top 4 always kind of, that's just down to the fact that they've got aggressive PR strategies, and you know, MedMedica doing the 420 campaign the month previously, that's likely, you know, skewing into May statistics. So I guess one point to make is, you know, if you are spending a lot of money on PR and marketing, and you are actively trying to engage the cannabis naive or, you know, cannabis patient community, you will see those results. And yeah, and I think MedBud's stats demonstrate that.
definitely. We didn't really get into this in the piece because it's a bit more like nuanced reflection, but it's interesting to see Life jump so much without a really aggressive external PR campaign and strategy. Mm-hmm. So like to see them jump quite a lot that is quite interesting. So it does show that if you create information and comms specifically for the patient audience, you do notice an increase in traffic and engagement. You don't necessarily need to have these huge big PR things all the time. You can just kind of hone in a message and deliver it to patients.
And I guess that's the beauty of MedBud's platform as well, because everyone in the industry follows it and, you know, tracks it and looks at the, you know, the updates and checks the website. So that a lot of traffic is coming from there. So existing patients are checking out different clinics and what the offer is. But equally, because of the really strong SEO that the site has built up, a cannabis naive patient that's interested in entering the space and is searching for different products and brands, MedBud will likely come up on that list. So that then directs the traffic there as well. So yeah, it would be really interesting to know what the split between, you know, naive and current current population or kind of current community.
Yeah, very interesting. That would be really interesting data. But obviously,
I have no idea how you'd get that data.
You need some kind of pop up. Yeah, that's not. Yeah. So pharmacies was there's a little bit of flux and change with the clinics, but pharmacies less so, right?
Pharmacies stayed exactly the same. Yeah. I don't know if there was maybe a slight fluctuation in the percentages, but rankings stayed exactly the same from last month.
And was there any observations around what it takes? Because a lot of those pharmacies that were doing well were kind of associated with the clinic, so there's a natural flow through there with an integrated supply chain. But there was one pharmacy that we noticed where there's a little bit of kind of went against that trend and maybe showed how a diverse portfolio of products might actually be an interesting way to compete in those vertically integrated supply chains.
100%. Right? So yeah, that was Specials Pharma, and they're not directly affiliated with any clinic. They kind of work with everyone for the most part in the industry, and one of the reasons for that is they've got I believe it's the most diverse formulary of products. So I think, yeah, that's another observation. If you are looking to enter the space and you're thinking of setting up a pharmacy that's not affiliated with a clinic, having a very diverse range of products is your best bet to allow different clinics to tap into it. But yeah, otherwise with pharmacies like Medica, Curaleaf, CB1 Medical, that all kind of correlates to the clinics. And if you're at that clinic, you are most definitely and most likely using their pharmacy. And that's yeah.
With flowers, however, we saw a lot of flux. So flowers is a bit of a wild ride, isn't it, in terms of observations month to month? There are a lot of new products coming in. There's a lot of people get very interested in those new products.
Yeah, I think it demonstrates from the flower rankings. I think a likely theory is that what patients receive month to month likely varies. I mean, that would be like the biggest explanation, because the top 5, I believe, from last month are completely different to this month. So it demonstrates this is the competitive nature of the flower market, the fact that there are constantly new brands and constantly new products that are coming in. So yeah, it's like a minefield of what you can kind of choose from. And yeah, you can see that from this graph. And even Big Nasty Medical Gastropop is it's first place, but when you look at the pie chart, it's not massively larger than the other ones. So it's quite an equal split. So it just demonstrates that like patient needs, preferences, and what they like just varies massively. And so if anything, this flower chart is even like, it suggests to pharmacies even more that they need a diverse range of products, because the demand for a diverse range of products is really, really important, as you can see from this.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll kind of, I imagine next month it'll be the same thing again. There'll be a new bunch of flowers come in, that all gets shaken up and jumps around. Oils less so, right? Oils were a bit of a mirror to the pharmacies.
Yeah.
Very standard.
Yeah,
huge credit.
Yeah, which is interesting. Like Advin definitely dominates the oils market. I don't know how many oils there are on this chart, if it's 20 or 21. And Advin takes the top 5 slots, and that equates to a third of the entire oils market. And then aside from those top 5, I think it has another 3 in there somewhere. So like 8 of the 21 products are just from Advin. And that's obviously associated with Curaleaf, and Curaleaf have a large chunk of the market dominated. And yeah, I think that's interesting, given obviously there's so much fluctuation between flowers, and people kind of change around what they're trying. And yeah, I think there's just it's a bit more competitive in that regard. But oils are like across the board more likely to be prescribed for like cannabis naive patients, or patients that aren't super experienced, or just down to personal preference if they're a cannabis naive patient. And that would also kind of make sense, because Curaleaf has kind of dominated that market with the Sky News ad and the aggressive PR strategy. So they are going after that kind of population and cohort that aren't super cannabis experienced. So I think that's reflected in the data once again.
Yeah, definitely. We did have some kind of overall call to action type reflections, which echoed a discussion which is taking place on Twitter or X, and a discussion that's taking place now on Reddit over the last few days. And not to add fuel to that fire or kind of go too far beyond what's already been said, really, but there's definitely a need for the industry to work together and collaborate to increase the patient cohort and profile. And what we've seen working with MedBud Wiki is the use of bots to try and manipulate statistics and change the stats. And obviously the use of bots is illegal. I certainly believe it to be illegal, and used by some companies or groups or individuals or whoever to manipulate and change the public's perception of brands, products, or offers. But thankfully we can just emit that traffic and that data, because MedBud Wiki have shared all this stuff with us, and we've kind of seen all the bits in the background, obviously, with these stats. And it's obviously clear when it's bot traffic because the engagement time is 0 seconds. So you know that no one has spent any time. It's literally a click and it's gone, and another click and it's gone. And I guess some of our reflections or concluding thoughts of the analysis was that those kind of nefarious tactics don't really have any place in the industry. They're not helpful, and that kind of like use of bots to try and manipulate and change data just doesn't reflect well on anyone. It does, like, no one looks good. The whole industry as a sector and a group looks bad when those sort of tactics are used. But thankfully, it's not going to affect we're doing, the analysis that we're doing, and it doesn't affect the stats because they're able to be omitted. I guess our real hope is that whoever is using those sort of tactics, it's just kind of a one-off and was a bad decision, and just people, I'm just going to try this and move on from it. Unfortunately, yesterday there was there was a post which was again getting unbelievable amount of bot traffic, but I don't think it's going to be something we're going to be talking about forever. I think it's something that we kind of either see and just forever ignore, and it has no impact, or it's something that stops. But it's disappointing that in a way, it's kind of. Cannabis was legalized in 2018. This is the first time we've seen someone use these kind of tactics. So that's kind of good in a way, that like it's taken this long for someone to start to try and manipulate and use kind of like bad strategies, bad marketing strategies. And I guess we can also see that from looking at the stats, you don't really need to do that because companies are having success and getting a lot of traffic without using it. So we did put some concluding thoughts, didn't we, in there around just a hope that that's not something we see every month, but also a reassurance that it's not going to impact on the analysis. It's not going to change the data that we look at. So
yeah, 100%. And
we'll see.
And I mean, aside from when you omit that, there's an increase in traffic month on month, which is demonstrates that some of the marketing strategies and and aggressive PR strategies are actually working. So it'll be interesting to see what comes next month. Now, how that varies.
Yeah. Look, we're really glad we're doing it. It's really interesting. We enjoyed it, didn't we? It's really interesting for us to sort of get into the numbers and see the data and give some thought to what's going on. So we'll be back again next month talking about it again.
100%.
Looks like we're going to get a Labour government.
Yeah, just crossing everything. It's not jinx anything, but it looks strong.
Imagine after I've said this, we'll put it live and it's like absolute political disaster. It seems fairly likely that we're going to get a Labour government, and certainly Labour look like they're going to be in a strong political position. And this is something that's of interest to us, not only as people that care and interest in politics and spend a lot of time together and with friends, colleagues, speaking about politics, but it's also of interest because we're the co-secretary for the all-party parliamentary group for medical cannabis, so we spend time in Westminster talking directly to politicians, and it's always been a strong core of Volteface's work has been engaged with politicians. And we're also working a very interesting UK medical cannabis space. So, I'll just sort of ask this question openly to both of us, but like, what do we think a strong Labour government could do for, or would do for UK medical cannabis? What are your sort of initial thoughts, Kasia?
Well, I think just generally having a little bit more political stability and a runway of like, okay, cool, we've got 5 years to put together plans and roll them out. I feel like that will just give a bit more reassurance as to feeling more confident in decisions and actually going through with them. And I think Labour across the board are just more hot on healthcare and NHS access. So I think we could see, I feel like we could see some real improvements in that, and just a bit more of a bit more of an understanding as to the importance of expanded NHS access, expanded research and evidence gathering into it. We know from our APPG work that Labour MPs are very, very supportive of the issue. There are a lot of Tory MPs that are supportive of the issue as well, but Labour is quite strong in the APPG.
Yeah, agree. One of the things we've heard a lot, like over the years with MPs, is an initial support of the issue, and certainly a behind the scenes. That's great, really good work. No qualms with it, but less of a kind of like assertive public stance on the issue. And we have some great MPs in the APPG who've campaigned for this issue for years and years and years, and continue to do so, and very admirably support the cause. But there are a lot that have kind of just sat on the fence, and I guess part of that has been them being worried about opening themselves to political attack when they're not in government, and saying things under a very strong Starmer whip of don't talk about cannabis, don't talk about drugs, let's play this safe, let's not do anything daft. And we know that's been the message from Starmer's team. So perhaps in that kind of new political world where Labour feel much more confident and have 5 years, maybe we'll see not only more support for medical cannabis, but maybe some of those other discussions which have just come nowhere near the chamber in the past like 3-4 years, and that is discussions around decriminalisation of cannabis, not just medical cannabis, discussions around recreational cannabis, discussions around homegrown, discussions around what other European countries are doing and what that would look like here in the UK. Because I think you're right that like UK medical cannabis discussions have been well supported by MPs. It's not that controversial. And when we've recently had an experience, didn't we, of some staff members from an MP coming into the meeting, initially going, oh, I don't know, this is probably a bit too controversial for the MP we work for. And then post-meeting going, well, that was the least controversial thing ever. Like, I'm sure they would have no issue with anything that was discussed in the meeting. But I think we might be able to get into a political environment when those discussions could go a little bit further. And we could, because we know there are lots of Labour MPs who have been very supportive of drug reform generally in strong positions.
Yeah, but they just haven't been allowed to speak about anything.
Yeah, they're just not allowed to chat about it. They're just too scared. And I mean, it's not that I sort of agree with it, but I can understand the logic of just not going to policy areas that risk your position. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can understand the logic of that, but hopefully we can get into an environment where, not in the APPG that we're working on, but just generally in politics, that there's a bit more of a proactive, positive discussion around it. It will leave them open to attack from the Tories, but if the Tories end up with so few seats that they can't really mount a super strong opposition, they have to lean and rely on reform. Well, or the Lib Dems. Well, they're two parties that actually are probably pretty progressive on cannabis. The Lib Dems, we know, have called for legalization.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, because based on the polls at the moment, I think the Lib Dems are meant to win another like 30 seats, going up from 17 to 48. So if that is the case, and it's around there, that just leaves an even stronger majority around, potentially more progressive things around drug policy reform. Because the Lib Dems have supported that in the past, and I think being in a, not a majority, but in a stronger position seat-wise, they might feel bolder to do that as well.
Agree. And reform, like I've met Richard Tice a few times, like a bunch of meetings years ago, like COVID and pre-COVID. Farage has said positive things about cannabis. Knowing their politics, there might be a party that are a bit boomer-esque. Do you know what I mean? I think when people think of the average reform voter, they'll think of a boomer.
Yeah, although Nigel Farage's TikTok game is really strong, so he's definitely going out after the Gen Z and millennial men.
Yeah, for sure. And I think perception obviously is quite far from reality. So I think the perception is it's a boomer party, but ideologically, there's a strong libertarian theme and a strong we'll do whatever we want, and we need more tax, we need to improve our economy. Why people tell us what to do? So they definitely have a conservative streak.
Yeah, and I think they're kind of going after those Tory voters that are a bit disillusioned with the Tory party.
Agree, 100%. Yeah, but a lot of them are that's kind of the libertarian crowd. We know think tanks and individuals and centre-right influencers who are perpetually frustrated at the Tories' endless banning of everything. And the allies of drug reform, there are strong allies on the right to drug reform, and I think they'll probably find a home with reform. So if Labour do get a bit more positive and proactive on the issue, the Tories stand against it. I don't think they get much support from the Lib Dems. I don't think they get much support from reform. They won't get any support from the SNP. So it sort of feels like a policy issue that you could talk about without fear of strong repercussions. So UK medical cannabis, I think, will do really well under a Labour government, right? Because we've already got a really strong Labour base in the APPG. It's not controversial. They'll be in government. We've got 5 years. We know the Labour benches rally behind, positive discussions on medical cannabis. But I think maybe we could step outside that for the first time in many years and have interesting, productive conversations around broader drug reform, which would be refreshing. It's definitely gone backwards. We've definitely taken a step
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, and it's just been such a politically turbulent time, so it'll be nice to try and get a bit more stability.
Well,
And not long now,
I
just
think
under a
that
month.
yeah, not long now. I think back in my career at Volteface, joining in like whatever it was, like 2016, 2017, I think there was like a year where it wasn't chaos politically. And then since then, it's just been non-stop drama. Do you know what I mean? There's just been endless thing after endless thing, from Brexit to COVID, there's all sorts of stuff. So yeah, wouldn't that be interesting to have a stable government with a prime minister who's actually been elected? Like, oh, you got elected, like you're actually voted as the prime minister. That's interesting. We normally get sort of like people just scuttled
Yeah,
in
people just
through
shipped in.
yeah, that'd be kind of weird.
Oh, funny. But yeah, so we'll keep our eyes peeled, but it should certainly be interesting. And I think yeah, just looking forward to the 5th of July when we find out.
Yeah, you're gonna stay up.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
You just
yeah, probably. Maybe. I'll see. See how tired I am.
yeah, fair. All right, the last piece we're going to look at then was Sarah Sinclair's article in the Byline Times. A similar message to some work that we'd seen previously in the Guardian around ongoing.
And Release have done their campaign, hashtag Release My Meds, around this issue in particular. So yeah, it's really good to see just continued media coverage from a variety of different outlets on the absurdity that police are just unaware that medical cannabis is legal, and the fact that patients are either having their medication confiscated or they're getting criminalized and taken in by the police is just awful, and ridiculous given it's almost 6 years since the law was changed. And police are like I think police lines around it are like, oh, like, well, how are we meant to know when the law changes? It's like, well, you guys are enforcing it, so you probably should.
That's a wild comment for a police officer. How no one tells us? It's literally our job to know.
Yeah, especially with something like cannabis. So like, it just so disheartening and sad to see these cases, like the fact that we still need to raise awareness of these issues. But great to see an in-depth investigation from Sarah for the Byline Times. And it's clear that this sort of campaign is pushing through.
Yeah, definitely. And shout out to Release as well, who are doing a great campaign, like, as you mentioned, try and push back on that. So there is now, thankfully, some support for patients that are experiencing that. And I think the reporting like this and the reporting that we saw in the Guardian has done a really good job of flagging that this is a serious issue. Like, people are getting persecuted and criminalized legally, like with absolute valid reasons to have a prescription. So yeah, it's really good. Great job by Sarah, and really good from Byline for commissioning work that continues to look at this. Byline have done a few pieces now on cannabis.
Yeah, they have, all around kind of medical cannabis and kind of similar to issues as well. So yeah, it's nice to see that different audience being captured.
Definitely. Good stuff, Katya. Good breakdown of the main things that we've seen pop up recently. Not loads and loads of news. It's very quiet spell.
It's always the beginning and the end of the year that are really busy, and then as we get into the summer, it goes a bit quiet.
Yeah, true. But no, good stuff. Good reflections.
Yeah, let us know what you think in the comments. Thanks. And see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Yeah, see you next time. Cheers, everyone.